Good morning, guys, and welcome to the show. Fernando.
Welcome to the show.
Peppy as always. Today we have a special one for you. This is a question you guys ask me on the live shows all the time because we did a 911 video on a Nissan Titan. You're like, how do I do this? And I'm like, I don't know, because I did it years ago and we didn't really focus on it too much, and that is making a harness to integrate into the Rockford Fosgate system that is in this 2008 body style Nissan Titan. This one. Today, we have one in the bay. We're going to put a nail in this. We're gonna finish this. We're going to make a video showing you how to, one, if you don't have this, still watch the video because we're gonna show you how we did it. And two, we're gonna show you how to make this specific plug. There again, you can use that information making your own plug down the road. So let's get started. First, where's the factory amplifier located in this car? Well, let's roll the intro and we'll find out. Inside the footwell of this vehicle, this guy right here, this is the gas pedal. It uses 3 bolts to hold it in place up here, down there. And behind it, you have these 2 plugs that are plugged up into this area here. That's the factory amplifier. You have a body module here. The Sirius XM module is located behind that. Then the amplifier is located all the way in the back. So you actually have 3 modules stacked on top of one another. But you want to get to this plug right here. This is the plug we're going to be after. This has our speaker outputs as well as the signal coming from the radio. Once you've gotten that harness unplugged, you want to take a picture of it because you need to figure out what it is. There is nowhere you're going to go and type in Nissan Rockford Fosgate system and find that plug. It's not listed. Nobody's made a plug for this. However, that plug looks like other plugs. To do this, you're going to want to go to 2 sites. One, metroonline.com and pack-audio.com. And what you're trying to do is find an image of a plug. They have catalogs available so that you can actually just turn pages on your computer looking for a catalog. It's going to be way easier than trying to just type in what you're looking for. So both companies have catalogs. Start looking through pictures until you find the harness that matches this. Of course, we've done that for you. In this case, this is the BHA 2003 harness. Opening the harness up and grabbing it out of the bag. It has a ton of wires on it, but there are open holes in here. So I grabbed 2. Now I have 2 complete versions of this harness, which is fine because I'm going to need some of these wires to fill in all these holes, because on that factory one, all the holes are filled in. Step number 1 would be buy 2 of the same harness so that you have extra wiring if you need it, in which case we know we will. Let's take them into the car and make sure they plug in. Sometimes if you'll notice this little pin right here, this little pin or these, they tend to be located in different areas. That's all right. These 2 are always in the same spot. If this is 16th or an 8th or moved over here, it doesn't matter. You can shave that off and still plug this in because the clip is up here. Ah, perfect. In this case, the clip is in the right spot. It lines right in. Don't trust these wires. These wires are for a car, not this. What we need to do is remove this piece of tape right here so we can get a look at this wiring and see what's going on. When cutting open a harness like this, be very careful. If you have like a sewing seam ripper, those work really good. If you're gonna be using a knife like this, put it on its lowest setting. You don't want to cut any of the wires. Just work your way through it. This has a layer of tape and a layer of rubber over it. Just take your time, cut through the tape first, and then once you're rolling the tape off, you can get to where the rubber is and it'll come off even easier. That off, we have a bunch of twisted wires, which is cool. It's what we want. And we have these guys right here, these big guys right here. We have the black, brown, green, and gray, and then coming out of them is 2 speakers. These are gonna be your line levels. So this is your shielded cable that's coming, your signal that's coming from the radio, and then these twisted pairs here are gonna be all your speaker wires that go out into the car. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To test that, we're gonna use a tone generator. Follow the twisted pair into the plug. That is the passenger front speaker, driver's front speaker. Is that the center channel?
Yes, sir.
All right, so this one is the center channel like we had hoped. What colors you got back there?
I got light green and black yellow.
Ah, hold on. Oh, you know what? This is a twisted pair. 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2,
One Twitter's
3,
still
4.
connected, so.
What's that?
That's both Twitter and the mid-range.
So these 2 should be that top dash, but I think they're blown. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so that's the top dash. They're blown. So there's that. There's the center channel. Okay, So that makes sense. One of the things that by testing them we found out, there's these wires here that aren't twisted together. So that would be this black, yellow, light green, and this red, blue, orange, blue. These are actually the rear speaker wires. They're just not twisted together in this portion of the harness for some reason, like all the others. Over here on this end, where we found the front mid bass, there's a matching set of thinner wire. These are going to be for the tweeters in the dash. In the beginning, we assumed that there was only 5 pairs of twisted wires, because there is. Come to find out, they're different than what we thought. And this happens a lot of the times. That's why you have to do these kind of testing, is to figure out what the heck is going on. We have front mid bass wires, front tweeter wires, center channel wire, and then the rear, the one set of wires here is powering the mid bass in the bottom of the door and the tweeter. We're taking those out and we're just gonna put a coaxial in the bottom of the door, so we're bypassing the tweeter in the loop. But this is telling us that we have a full active front. That's great news because we're gonna be using crossovers and we don't have to run wires because the wire's already here. What we need to do now is figure out polarity. We need to find out what is positive, what is negative. If speakers don't work, like in the top dash here, they don't function. One of them is out, the other one's just dead. We're lucky in the sense that they have the same wire coloring as this. This speaker wire here is blue, white, and blue, red. For tweeters in the dash, there's also a blue, white, and a blue, red. Looking at the speaker that's out, we see a blue, white, and blue, red. So whatever we find the positive to be in this door, we can easily make it match up there because it's just the wiring. It doesn't matter. We just need to make sure that we know what is positive and negative there. These are all outputs going to the speakers. So this isn't as important because we can pick any color we want. So for example, if we pull all the speakers out of here, this is blue, white, blue, red here. If we want the blue, white to be positive and the blue, red to be negative, it can, it doesn't matter. We just have to make sure when we make our harness that we write blue, white as positive and blue, red as negative. You kind of follow me, I hope? But in this case, we have speakers in the car. We use the factory wiring coloring, so we have to find out that factory wiring color code. We're gonna need a polarity tester for that because we have to figure out which way the speakers are moving. So this is a PT9A polarity tester. It makes this poppy noise. We have our handheld polarity tester. This has just got a microphone in it that listens to the output. So it's giving us a red indicator, which means that we have it backwards. We'll go over and check where our PT9A is plugged into. In this case, we have the black plugged into the blue white and the red plugged into the blue red. If we flip those and make the color combination so that blue white is positive and blue red is negative, come back over here and test again, we'll get our green indicator. This is telling us that the driver's front door, blue white is positive, blue red is negative, and they're located in pin 2 and the right below it, because this is an over-under harness. An over-under harness is a harness where this is going to be the positive and then this will be the negative. It's not side by side where this is positive, this is negative. It's an over-under. So the harness, if it's like 1 to 12 and then 13 to 24, in this case it'll be 2, and then the corresponding number right below it is going to be the opposite one. When looking at this harness here, this is a side-by-side harness. As you can see, it's got purples next to each other, the white next to each other. This car is not wired that way. Again, another reason why you have to do the testing. So now you're going to repeat that process on all the speakers. You're going to figure out which one is positive and which one is negative on each one of these by using your polarity tester to pop those. And the key to this is to write this information down so that you know what you have to build. To get the right notes, we need to know how many pins this has. It says 12 pins here, 12 pins here. It is in fact a 24-pin harness. You want to take your notes. There's a couple different ways you can write this out. You can write like driver's front, mid-bass, driver's front, tweeter, passenger, whatever makes sense to you. You can write just down the numbers, 2 and 14. What I like to do is draw a physical speaker. So this is going to be my mid-bass, this is going to be my tweeter. Here are my wire colors, and I'll write down all the colors. And I'll write them down when I'm looking at them, so I'll write the top row and then the bottom row. In this case, the blue whites, the white black, blue red, the blue black. And I'll write them over one another. In most cases, if all the tops are positive, all the bottoms are negative. They're again, in most cases, not all cases, so that's why you have to test each one, because every now and then they'll just flip one backwards and totally screw up your day, and you don't want to find that out in the end. So then I'll come back and I'll add a positive and a negative for all those. I'll draw a diagram of the harness and just kind of like put passenger driver, tweeter, you know, so that I have an idea, and then I'll write positive, negative, so just so I can look at it at a glance and kind of get an idea of what the heck I'm doing here. Once you have all those notes done though, you have to rebuild this harness. On this particular harness, there's these dark gray portion here. We have to get that off. To get that off, flathead screwdriver screwdriver, lift up on the ends, kind of fan these out, it'll eventually pop off. This is what locks these wires in, along with a metal clip that's in here. You need some form of a pin extraction tool. This is the Delphi pin extraction tool. This is just a random pin extraction tool that I have. When you look inside of here, there is a open spot above the pin. That is so that you can stick your pin extractor into there, push down, and then this will pop out. And once you've pushed down the piece that's inside of here, you need to fix that now so that you can reuse it. And you're going to do that on all of these. We have both harnesses depinned. We have them in 2 stacks. Obviously the color that is normal, meaning your whites, grays, greens, purples, all those. And then we have the power side here. We're going to be using both stacks. The reason why is we have inputs, outputs, and the tweeter wires. We want to use as many matching colors as we possibly can. Front, rear, left, right. We want to match those up to make our jobs easier. However, those tweeters, those add in a whole nother element of fun. We have orange and orange white, so we have a set of oranges here. We can grab red and black, and these can be our tweeter wires also. So we have matching pairs that will make sense to us as we're looking at this. To start, we'll work with the speakers that we know. We'll grab a pair of our wires here. Make sure that you have a positive and negative of each color. The positive is a solid, the negative is the stripe. We'll take those back into the car with one of these and our notes. Plug it back in so you have the proper orientation of what is positive, what is negative. On this, the white, black, blue, black is the first set of wires. That is going to be passenger front, or what we like to call 2. The tops here where the white, black is our positive, and the bottoms, or non-clip side, the clip side is the top, non-clip side is the bottom, are going to be our negatives. Grab a gray with a black stripe. We will put that in the non-clip side. Looking into the bottom here to make sure that it comes out the right hole, push it into place, give it a light tug just to make sure that it's in. Don't pull on it super tight because that other piece is going to go in there and lock it into place. We have our first 2 in. The next 2 are going to be blue, white, blue, red. We know that that blue, white is positive and the blue, red is negative. The next 4 wires on here, 2 up, 2 down, are our tweeter wires. We're going to pass over those for a minute. We'll go to the 5th spot, which is an orange, blue, red, blue. Red, blue is going to be negative and orange, blue is going to be positive. It is following that same clip side, and that is number 4, which is purple. So going back to our harness, we'll skip 2 openings. So go to the 3rd open harness, and we'll make sure that we have our black, purple. Clip that into place. Put the solid black right above it. Check your pins to make sure they came out the right holes. The next 2 colors are going to be green and black with yellow. Light green could also be construed as a light blue, so it just depends. As you go up, it looks light blue up here, it looks green here. Either way, green is positive and yellow black is negative. Start with the negative, clip that in. Have all 4 of our main drivers attached into the harness. I like to clip it in periodically just to make sure that it's going in. The pins don't get bent or anything like that. Next, we want to work on the tweeters. The first tweeter wire up is the blue, white, blue, red. We have 2 to choose from, the orange, white, and the orange, or the red and the black. I'm gonna start with my orange, white, and I'm gonna use stripe as negative and the solid as positive, clipping those into place. The next 2 are going to be the passenger, which is the white, black, blue, black. Grounds are on the same spot, clip those in. We have all our signal wires attached. Just to recap how the plug is wired, in the 1 spot is the passenger front mid base. The 2 spot is the driver's front mid base. The 3 spot is going to be the driver's front tweeter. The 4 spot is going to be the passenger front tweeter. The 5 spot is going to be the passenger rear. And the 6 spot is going to be the driver's rear. Bringing back our tone generator, driver's front, passenger front, tweeters are still not connected, passenger rear, driver's rear. This will allow us to just connect up to the speakers. If that's all we need, we can stop there. We're good. We have the harness we need. In this case, we're going to be not stopping there because we need to get this output to go off to our amplifier. We're going to be keeping the factory radio. Looking at this, we have a black cable that goes to a yellow-brown, brown cable that goes to a black with a white, gray cable that goes to a black-white blue, and a red cable that goes to a black, red, brown. We have to figure out what these do and where they fall into our harness. To test these, we're going to use a digital multimeter for the first part. We need to figure out what is left, right, front, rear. You can do that with a digital multimeter and some pink noise, and using the balance and fader on the radio. Now, to get our pink noise into our radio, this particular radio has an aux jack. We have an aux jack cable to lightning adapter. Plug it in and turn the volume up. For our pink noise, we'll be using our phone, and the app we're going to be using for that is the new Educar test app. So it's Educar Test and Tune. They have a pink noise generator, which is just going to go for us, which is perfect. We want to go into our radio and fade it to 1, this guy here, driver's front. With your digital multimeter, select AC voltage, which is the squiggly line with the V underneath it. Sound is AC, and we will be measuring AC. Take the test probes, put them into the plug just like we did before on the speaker popping. We'll start with the outside. You're gonna get a small amount of voltage, millivolts, because there's always going to be some form of a bleed over, but that's not enough for having the volume up as high as we do. Go to the next set in the 2 spot. When I call it a 2 spot or a 1 spot, I'm going from the side that we're working with. This side, you know, we called this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're on the opposite side, and we're going to do the same thing. It just makes it easier to talk about. But what we can see in the 2 spot on this side is that we are getting a substantially more amount of signal than we were getting previous. If we reach up and we turn the volume down, as you can see, the signal goes away. We turn the radio back up, we get more signal out of it. So that means that the 2 spot is going to be driver's front. Now let's switch it over to passenger front. Our voltage is now gone. I'm gonna come back into the 1 spot here, and we're getting a similar number that we were getting before. Turn that down. So it looks like it might be following some form of a pattern. Just like on this side, the outside was passenger front. On the outside here is passenger front. On the inside here it was driver's front. On the inside here it's driver's front. That means that 3, if this is going to follow any form of logic, will be passenger rear. But let's see. It is passenger rear. And so lastly, we'll just test it to test it, and we have our signal. This is in the same configuration as this side, just the opposite. Let's pull these out. And we have this one random green wire with a white stripe just chilling right here. I love it when they do this, because that typically means that there might be remote turn on in here. And since we have our digital multimeter right here, we'll switch it to DC, which is the line with the dots beneath it. And that is in the 5 hole. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll go to ground, and will you look at that? We have a 12-volt signal. We'll turn the key off, and it's gone. What we have is a remote turn on coming into this amplifier that's turning it on. So this green with a white stripe here is a remote turn on. That's awesome, because remember, we have a bunch of blue with a white stripe. Come in here and we'll grab one, come 5 over from this open side, make sure we have clip on top, slide it into place. There should be an opening between green and where you insert the blue white. That's the center channel that we're not going to be using, and that leaves us 4 holes here for our next set of wires, which is the signal. Hopefully you guys wrote that information down as far as which was channel 1, this guy here, 2, 3, 4. Now we need to figure out what is positive and negative. We still have our phone plugged in, which is great. We need a polarity track. We need something that goes pop, pop, pop. Just like when we were using PT9A to create our polarity pops, which you actually can do. This has an aux output here that you can plug into the radio to create the popping sound, which is very handy. You plug it in and turn it back on, and it'll pop through the stereo. In this case, we're just going to be using the Sheffield Labs My Disc, and they have a speaker polarity pop, and it just goes pop, 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 just like the PT9A did. And the reason why we want to use that is because it's, for one, it's still plugged in, and we're going to take a test tweeter that we have, this guy right here. It's a tweeter, very efficient. They don't need a lot of wattage to get up and dance. We have some test leads attached to it, and we're going to plug it into our signal output there. We'll use our handheld polarity tester to measure what is positive and what is negative, and then we'll write it down. So you hear the tweeter, it's playing a pink noise right now. Now it's playing the polarity track. We'll flip them, have the brown as negative. Now we're getting a positive pop. That's telling us that the brown is negative and the yellow is positive. We'll do the same test with all our other wires. After doing all the testing, no 2, brown was negative, yellow was positive. This door we have black is negative, white is positive. 4 back there in the corner, black, white is negative, blue is positive. And then 3 back here, black, red is negative, brown is positive. We have the information we need now to add in the next set of pins. Plugging it back in, clip side on top. The top on this side are going to be negatives. They're going to be the opposite. And the first up is going to be gray. Slide that into place. Gray, black on top, gray on bottom, followed next by our pair of whites, purples, lastly the green. And that's our harness. Let's head over to the bench. Before we do any more work on this, we need to put these dark gray locks back in. We've just built this harness and we don't want it to fall apart. By clipping this in, this is going to lock those wires into place, like so. We have our completed amplifier bypass harness. The 4 signal wires here, we can take these and add some RCAs onto them to plug into the preamp section of the amplifier. For doing that, I'll be using the Stinger X12 line. It's a pair of RCA ends that go to speaker wire. I have a positive and negative here. I will add on a run of the Stinger speed wire, which if I open it up, it has 9 conductors inside of it. It has the whites, the grays, the greens, and the purple, and their corresponding negatives. And the 9th one is this blue wire here, which is the remote turn on. That means I can connect our remote turn on and the 8 signal wires to this, run it up to the amplifier, and then add on 2 pairs of these, and I'll have my signal for my amplifier. Then out of my amplifier, I could run up to these wires here. In this case, we are going to be using some passive crossovers, so we'll come out of our amplifier into the passive crossovers, out of the passive crossovers with our tweeter and our mid wires, and come into these 6 wires here. Now we have our amplifier bypass for this. We can leave everything else unplugged, tape back up that harness so that it looks nice and finished in factory. You can pull it over into the side there out of the way so that the gas pedal doesn't get in the way of it, and that's it. Now you have your Rockford Fosgate amplifier bypass plug. The method I just showed you in this video doesn't just apply to this vehicle. Like I said at the beginning, this is how we test every single amplifier system that comes in if we don't have something like an Amp Pro or a pre-existing harness. We go through the same steps every time. You too can go through them as well. Or you can just write down what I've just told you and build your own harness for this particular car, but if you're working on something different, well, alright guys, we hope you enjoyed this one. We hope if you have this Rockford Fosgate system, you can now build your harness with ease and have a lot of fun and integrate into it. It is one of the cooler systems to integrate into because it has that variable voltage output that is so nice to go into your amplifiers. It's a lot of fun, and you know, you do what you want with it. Plug it into a nice DSP like we're gonna do in this car and make it sound phenomenal and retain that factory look for whatever reason. Fernando.
On to the next one, guys.
You guys have a great night as always. We'll see you later next time.
Bye.
Bye.